Trashy magazines and pretty trashy people. I just hoped I could keep them out of the crime section. Bronco along would slow them down, but not much. The great thing about being famous as well as rich is the bad guys know who to kidnap. I remembered there was a patio upstairs. This was the smoking area. One sad old man staggering around an empty party. This was all too familiar. What the hell was I doing? Tempting. It was your typical trendy hellhole, a playground for the overpreened and undernourished. Sushi and house music and vodka, a place you don't get through the door unless you're rich, beautiful, or in this instance, it seemed, a heavily armed psychopath. I remembered there was a patio upstairs. About the only thing I'd managed to clock in that place was the smoking area. Poor bastard's name was Claudio. I found out later he was a pretty big shot soccer player for the Galatians, some nearly superstar just back from Europe. The usual, scored goals, scored girls. The only box he'd be getting into now is the one he'd be leaving in. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done drugs in a nightclub. It looked loud and expensive enough to be Fabiana's. Her fashion sense didn't leave a whole lot of room for imagination, let alone food. The girl sure knew how to draw the eye, and maybe that was the problem. But at least I was heading in the right direction.
Don't shoot, Porvo!
Listen, you're staying here. Don't be a hero.
Oh, I won't. I'm retired.
Happy, healthy ex-cop? Give me a break. I had no choice but to keep pushing forward. Victor's political campaign was starting to come unstuck. Seemed the Broncos' luck was on the turn. If only that was the worst news they'd received that day.
ficando vergonhoso. Ela não vale a pena. Temos a mulher do branco. O Serrano vai cortar nosso saco se ela escapar. Vou gostar de matar essa puta. Tem muita coisa que eu gostaria de fazer com ela.
This was a mess. Where the hell was Passos? We were two failed cops failing miserably at being bodyguards. He approached. It was Giovanna's necklace. I had to hope the rest of her was still intact. Mr. Victor Bronco. For all his friends in high places, he had just as many enemies. Our $3 million man had locked the doors behind him. It suddenly hit me that this bloodbath was probably being recorded in HD. The Galatians would be making more than the sports pages tomorrow morning. Luckily for us, the blood money was still bleeding.
Time to move, bro.
Yeah, I hear you. Claudio, your golden boy. He'd sure picked the wrong party on the wrong night. Although if the past week was anything to go by, it was safe to assume any party with the Broncos in attendance was the wrong one to be at. They'd barred the front door. Of course, we were trapped in here. The only way out was through the back. Maybe I wanted to die there, amongst the empty bottles and my slept-in clothes. When you write your life into a tragedy, events don't always follow suit. This old guy, my days of playing dress-up were over. I wasn't some gallant knight. I didn't need a shield. The apartment made me wish I'd got to know him better. It made for interesting reading. If I'd been given a few more years looking into the bottom of a glass, I might have been on the same page. Looked like he was keeping an eye on me. Must have thought we were kindred spirits. More and more, I think he was right. Rent was going to have to be lowered in the building. That was something the tenants committee could thank me for. Up and out. Scramble away from what's left of your life over dead bodies and a few loose roof tiles. If I'd thought things through, I may have sat down and let myself burn right there.
Walk it off. You out of shape, homie. How's this look?
Looked like Passos had brought us to the right place. That was the chopper the Commando Sombre used to escape the nightclub attack. If Fabiana wasn't around here, then at least someone that knew where she was had to be. They probably made their ransom notes from the same glossy magazines they used to select their victims. This was a second request for payment. The best of intentions at the stadium weren't enough to cover it. They'd been making a reality show starring Sao Paulo's favorite housewife. Probably thought it would grease the wheels with the ransom money, but it only made me want to shove the cash down their throats. She was on the move. If they'd finally decided to kill her, It seems Serrano's boys had targeted the entire Bronco family and didn't give a shit which one they pinched. Serrano had taken Fabiana through the garage door. I had to find a way to open it. Serrano was reading his reviews. Vain chump. The newspaper was plastered with the news of the first kidnapping attempt. These were the floor plans to the nightclub. Seemed Mr. Serrano liked to be prepared. Proper little Boy Scout. That gangway would get me through. I had to keep on going across the docks. Victor's office had second son. I didn't have time to thumb through the old phrase book Portuguese, but it looked like Victor was asking for campaign contributions. Rodrigo held the family purse strings, and by the looks of it, he held them pretty tight.
They're all dead.
They'd been keeping an eye on Fabiana from afar. Shame they'd been more interested in supposed infidelities than thugs sizing her up for a snatch.
The servers are this way. This is the way. Security systems, not real security. Shit.
It was a lot shinier than a favela, and rent'd be easier to collect. Maybe Bronco would take pity on all the poor bastards who got evicted. I just had to keep him alive to find out. Graduation shots of Rodrigo, Victor, and Marcelo, educated at rich kid finishing schools all over Europe. No wonder they had the common touch. No one would be rebooting his system. Poor bastard.
cara quer?
Aí, bela camisa, hein?
Tu perdeu o fusão, amigo.
Hey, are you listening? Hey, I'll say a prayer for you.
Another life lesson I didn't want. Serrano, the man of the hour. Had De Silva left this there on purpose as some passive-aggressive message to the CS from a cop who was apparently too scared to go near any real... That comforting smell of secondhand beer and exploitation. Jesus, what a fucking creep. Yet more thugs whose Christmas card list I wouldn't be on. This wasn't Commando Sombra real estate. I had to keep moving. Say what you want about these hoods. They knew more about branding than a Madison Avenue art director. Tropa Z. Looked like Nova Esperanza had a civil war to add to its law.
Vamos conversar sobre isso, companheiro!
Soccer had gotten Claudio away from the favela, but it hadn't gotten him far enough. I couldn't imagine his death had done much to boost the CS's approval ratings in that part of town. Giovanna, charity worker and socialite. Work with the poor and play with the rich. You try to live in two worlds. Eventually you're gonna get your life ripped apart. I'd seen enough. If these drugs didn't have a doctor's name on them, I wasn't interested. Passos had told me about this stuff. Oxidado. They called it rust, packed full of healthy ingredients like quicklime and kerosene, cheaper, stronger, and deadlier than crack, easily marketed to the poor and desperate. All in all, a fine, honorable way to earn it. I was definitely in Commando Sombra territory. If Fabiana was still alive, She couldn't be far away.
Hey, take it easy.
You want to end up underground with the rest of them? Let's move!
Detective Valerie Winterson. One of my bullets is buried down there with her. I tell myself it was a tragic misunderstanding, an awful mistake. I tell myself a lot of things. All of it crap. The truth was, it was her or Mona. And I made a very bad call. This was one decision of mine I buried deeper than all the others. Nicole Horn's mausoleum. The woman who ordered Michelle's death. I passed it whenever I came to see my wife. It felt appropriate to leave her some dead bodies instead of flowers. Vinny Gognetti. I didn't think there was enough of him left to fill a grave. Poor son of a bitch. His antics had brought the once great house of Punchinello to its knees, and they were still struggling to stand up. Didn't seem too concerned with meeting their arrest quotas. Between me and Sao Paulo's finest, it'd be a miracle if the CS were still in business by the end of the day. I'd seen that number before. Were these the same bloodthirsty motherfuckers that showed up after the shootout at the party?
Quem você? O que você quer?
atirando, porra!
Coisa, seu filho da
Dá o seu
puta!
chefe, seu filho da puta! Cadê o Serrano?
mano, eu não sei nada.
Se você não começar a falar agora, seu merda, eu vou matar você com toda aquela corja da sua família!
Man, I was guessing these guys didn't spend their spare time studying the Geneva Convention. An army of paramilitaries and only my face made the front page. More publicity I didn't need.
What are you waiting for?
She was Victor's political nemesis and, in all probability, Sao Paulo's next mayor. Even the Broncos couldn't afford that many votes.
Max, come back!
This was where Marcelo was supposed to be sleeping. Passos had the name of the bar where I was drinking my life away. I should have put things together then, instead of waiting for De Silva to walk me through it real slow. The room belonged to Passos, my partner in crime. The bed was made. I could only guess that Passos was upstairs in the thick of it, whatever it was. So this was the famous Panama Canal. We could have gone to the moon while I was passed out and I wouldn't have noticed. While I'd been dead to the world, some of my shipmates were just plain dead. Where had they taken them? After I got out of New Jersey, things had flared up again between the Punchinellos and the DeMarcos. Didn't look like things would die down anytime soon. I was gonna have to stay away from the only place I'd ever known. Whatever they were looking for appeared to be gone. Daphne Bernstein, a recent divorcee, making the most of her considerable settlement, and Marcella was making the most of her. I don't want to think about it. It didn't make sense. Why would they leave the jewels and rip open the walls? It didn't occur to me just what the other cargo on board could be. Americans had a long and checkered history of involvement in Panama. This was my sorry chapter, for what it's worth. Either those guys wheeled their trash out on stretchers, or something was seriously wrong here. Oof-ay. Was there anything they didn't have a grubby hand in? A few days earlier, I'd have called it a coincidence, but I'd written off too many of those already. De Silva and I had the same fan club. I knew enough and he knew too much. We'd both become targets. It looked like Victor had won the sympathy vote, found his universal connection to the people, triumph out of tragedy. Part of me couldn't help thinking that had been his plan all along. There had to be something I wasn't seeing. Either Victor Bronco and Nevis were doing a lot of charity work together, or this was payment for something else. Were the Crash of Prado in Victor's pocket? Had he tipped them off about the stadium exchange? It was Monday's arrest log, as far as I could tell, and no sign of anybody from Nova Esperanza. All those poor bastards have been checked straight into the Imperial Palace Hotel. Police food, the same crap the world over. But I could reminisce about the old days later. For now, there was more pressing matters to deal with. Becker's blood money from the good doctor. Serrano had canceled one side of that transaction. The other was on me. About the only friend I had left in that town. AUP. Those were the guys who jumped the yacht in Panama. And what was this? Had the Brazilian cops tipped them off about the money? Luckily, I was Sao Paulo's own David and Goliath. I'd pinned De Silva as a coward, but he'd risked more than anyone, and he'd never taken a bribe. I'd spent my career dozing off in the briefing room. Now wasn't. The CH was started to hear boy, did he ever deliver. It was a little late to be thinking about precautions, but something told me. Nothing was happening back here. I had to get to where the action was. Judgment with a smile. You can't beat it. They weren't gonna wait for me to wave them goodbye. If I wanted to be part of the sending off party, I had to step it up. Keep going, Max. They're here somewhere. Find them. This was my stop.